Well, students, it's a thrill for me to have as my very special guest, Julia Gillard, former Prime Minister. It's great that you're here, Julia. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here, Halsey.
So you certainly have had an extraordinary career, and it really started with you completing a Bachelor of Arts and Law. Was it always a passion of yours as a young kid to be a lawyer?
I feel like talking to law students, I should be answering yes to that question, but it wouldn't be anywhere near true. I spent most of my childhood thinking I'd like to be a teacher. I really did like school. I liked my teachers. I guess I was a good kid, and so I thought I'd like to be a teacher. A friend's mother said to me, no, you're in the debating society, you're good at logical argument, you should be a lawyer, you should think about being a lawyer. My dad, meanwhile, was really pressing me to choose medicine, and I knew I wouldn't like that, blood, guts, it's not for me. So I sort of settled on doing law, but I wanted to take a bet in case I didn't like it, so I put the arts degree with it, majoring in economics, thinking if I don't get into the law bit, then I could follow the economics bit. But once I got through the sort of compulsory subjects at the start, which were pretty boringly taught, and got into some of the more interesting electives, I did like the study of law.
And do you reckon the law course you undertook prepared you for the real world of work out there?
No. I mean, I'm about 100 years old, so I was studying my law at Adelaide University and then at Melbourne University. My first year at university was 1979 or something disturbingly a long time ago, and finished it in the 80s. I took 2 years off entirely to be Vice President and then National President of the Australian Union of Students. And, the study of law back then was really big lectures, some tutorials, but a real focus on the big lectures, which you had to attend in person. There's no online. And, let's start in 1200 and something and painstakingly work our way through, giving no more real emphasis to the modern law than to the old law. So it really didn't equip you in a good way. What I did find helped was I went to Leo Cousins. I did the legal workshop, and that kind of brought it all down and made it more real.
And when you were doing law, and still to a large degree now, it was largely a male-dominated profession. Not so much now, but certainly would have been in those days. Did you come up against the glass ceiling as a young lawyer?
Yes, I did. I mean, in the firm I worked for, Slater and Gordon, a progressive firm, but it was still a all-male partnership when I was there. When I first started, it was a sole owner, Jonathan Rothfield. The firm had some financial problems. He'd taken it over to sort of steady the ship. And then the first partners were all men. There'd only been one woman in Slater and Gordon's partnership history. And it was a very, sort of knockabout Boise environment. Now, I didn't feel that particularly as an alienating environment. I'd been in student politics, that was pretty Boise knockabout too. But looking back on it now, I can see how it would have been very confronting for a number of women and made it feel like it wasn't their place. And there was certainly a culture when you were instructing, as an instructing solicitor working with barristers, that the, female solicitors were much more viewed as the personal assistant, helpmate, can you help get the coffee, rather than the legal mind in partnership with the barrister. You did really see that happening.
And did you see law and undertaking your law course and then practising as a lawyer, did you see that as a natural progression into politics?
I didn't put it together that way because of the sort of eccentric way in which I ended up doing law, and I didn't think about being in politics until I was sort of post my student politics experience. But fortunately for me, they did come together because at the end of the day, parliaments make laws. And that doesn't mean that you can't come into Parliament from every walk of life and bring your personal experiences and values. But it is helpful to get the basics of the system, a bill, amendments, how it's going to go through the Parliament, to have a familiarity with reading legal language and not being completely perplexed by that. So the skills from law did come into their own then.
And what do you reckon, easier to change the world as a lawyer or as a politician?
I would say as a politician. I think you can change the world from almost any position if you believe in something, you're passionate about it, you mobilise, you get others to join you. So you can change the world as a lawyer. but you'll never have more power in your hands and more ability to sort of flip the levers of change than you will through politics. I'm a big believer in encouraging young people to think about politics as a career. Men and women, Labor and Conservative, at the end of the day it doesn't matter. You know, this is our nation, this is our world, and if it's not you who's going to step forward, then who's it going to be?
Okay, last question. We've got many students watching this. They're not sure where their legal career path is going to go. They're not even sure whether they've done the right thing in undertaking a law course. If you had one or two bits of advice for our students, what would those bits of advice be? I
think firstly, be open to new opportunities. I think a lot of law students, and you know this is sort of pushed on you in some ways, mechanically see, I finish my law course, I get articles or do legal workshop, I burrow away in a firm, I'm an associate, then I get to be a partner, like life's mapped out. Some of the most interesting things that will come your way will be, just from the periphery of your eyesight, something you wouldn't have thought about before, but it'll be a great opportunity. So don't get stuck in the rut. And then the second thing, particularly in this pressurised world we live in now, I mean, I worked 1 million hours a week when I was a young lawyer. I just can't imagine what it's like now for young lawyers. Remember to take care of yourself, your personal health, your mental health. It might seem like it's do or die, and if you don't stay till midnight, the world's going to fall apart. But you know what, really? Mostly the sun comes up the next day if you go home at a decent hour, get to see your family and friends, treat yourself a bit more gently.
Great advice, great, fantastic career, Julia. Congratulations on that, and thanks for joining me and giving some fantastic advice to our students.
Thank you.